Welcome back. I am your host. I am attorney Stephen Leahy. And this is the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, for all you avid IRS Radio Hour listeners out there, it's the blog segment. Let it play out a little bit. Let it ring. Let nostalgia overflow you. And let those calm words from Stephen Leahy fill your soul, because he's got a great thing to be talking about this week. What is it?
Today we're going to talk about solving your IRS problem and then keeping it solved. That's the name of the blog.
So this is like basically the whole point of the whole show.
It is the point of the whole show. And so this is why people, remember the woman that called in, why don't you guys talk more about IRS stuff?
Is that what she sounded like?
Yes, she did.
No, she did a little bit, yeah. It was kind of like tone for tone.
And she complained. That's why we're known as a group. The whole group was just talking and making fun and being
they were
silly.
This is a no silly zone.
So we try not to be silly anymore. But we do tell people, if I don't answer your question, if you have an IRS question and we don't address it on the show, you can go to the ChicagoTaxTeam.com, and there we have videos there, and the podcast is there, and you'll find your answer there.
That's right, and you can get other information,
in our blog segment. So this week, in this blog segment, we're going to talk about that in the Mr. Know-It-All segment, because I had a call from someone who found an article I wrote on my blog, and that's why they contacted me. But we'll talk about that in the Mr. Know-It-All segment. But today we're going to talk about solving your IRS problem. So this is what happens when people, they have this problem and it's persistent. It goes on for a long time before they try to solve it, generally. And then they hire someone and they pay money to get it solved. And then They find themselves, another year goes by or 2 years go by, and they find themselves right back where they started. Well, how could that happen? We talked a little bit about this.
Didn't we talk about that last week?
Was it last week? Maybe it was a couple weeks ago.
Last week.
But one of the things I wanted to talk about is compliance. And whenever you solve an IRS problem, whether it's an installment agreement, remember we talked about there's 6 things you can do if you owe the IRS money.
I'm trying to do it on my fingers right now.
You can count that high?
He's only got 5 fingers on it.
I only have 4. Yeah, I'm at 4 right now.
So one of the first thing you can do is you can pay them. Second thing you can do is you can do an installment agreement. Third thing you can do is offer a compromise. Fourth thing is it's currently not collectible. Fifth thing you can do is file bankruptcy. And the sixth thing you can do, and this is what you're probably doing if you have an IRS problem, you can do nothing and let the IRS do whatever they want. And it's usually when they start taking things away from you, that's when people call me.
Before you go in a little further, isn't it so cool when you're able to sit there and the IRS calls you and you go, I don't have to talk to you.
Exactly.
My lawyer will talk to you.
That's right. Call my attorney.
That is so cool.
That's what we have when we have a power of attorney. Whenever you have an attorney working with you, the IRS is now obligated to contact your attorney and not bother you anymore. So they can't come by your house, for instance, if you have an attorney working for you, because they got to contact your attorney.
Wait, hold on. I'm getting a call right now from the IRS. They're telling me to go buy gift cards and then pay them through the gift cards.
Exactly. So anyway, whatever the remedy that you come up with, whether it's an installment agreement or an offer of compromise or currently not collectible, you get a letter in the mail that says, here's your agreement. This is what you're going to pay, or this is what we've found you currently not collectible. But there's also things in that agreement that people don't read. Okay, so they send you a letter. People don't read it. Amazing to me, because when people come to see me, they have a stack of IRS mail. And most of the time, it's not open. Nobody ever opens it. And then when they do open it, they just see how much do I owe. They don't really read it. And so if you read it, you'll see that there's other conditions. So I have a recent installment agreement that I got for someone. Mm-hmm. And in that letter, it says the other conditions of the agreement are, and one of them is you file and pay on time all federal and state taxes due during the term of the agreement. Okay, so I owe the IRS money. They agree, okay, we're going to take a payment plan. Then the next year, I don't file my tax return on time. Well, I just broke the agreement. So now I'm right back where I was. Now the IRS is going to send you a notice of termination of your installment agreement. They're going to put you back in collections. If they are garnishing your wages, they're going to go back to doing that. If they were taking money from your bank account, they're going to go back and do that. And there's other things too. So you have to pay there's user fees and all this other stuff that goes on with it too. So you have to follow the whole agreement. It's not just make your payment on time. And again, that's another thing. A lot of times people will start paying it late. the IRS, if you pay it late, they'll just cancel the agreement, and you're right back where you were again. So this is the first one, though, is the biggest stumbling block, and that's filing your tax return on time and paying the tax that's due. So people call me. I just had a call from a client of mine. He said, we got him in an installment agreement. He said, I just got this termination, but I paid him. Of course, he paid his taxes in August. They were due in April.
Oh, wow.
So just because I paid him now, well, you still broke the agreement. And so the IRS, he doesn't want to go back and do all this again because it's a hassle, right? Because you have to provide a lot of what they call substantiation. So every bill I get, every bank statement I have, all of my proof of income. And it's tedious. And you go through all this and you get this agreement, and then 5 months later, you don't pay your taxes on time, and you're right back where you were, and they got to go through this all over again.
Did he have an extension or not?
It doesn't. See, now that's a good question.
That is a great question.
The answer is no. If I ask for an extension, I have violated the agreement. So that's a big thing that happens with people. And I go through this with them when they get their agreement. And they say, well, I didn't file my tax return, but I filed an extension, so I'm okay, right? No, I'm not okay. And a lot of times, and we talk about this on the show a lot too, is because when people ask for an extension, what they don't realize is I still have to pay the tax by April 15th. They don't give me an extension to pay my taxes. So if I owe taxes on April 15th, I got to pay them on April 15th, even if I'm going to file my tax return in October. Well, how am I going to know how much I'm going to owe? Well, they don't really care about that because you don't know how much you're going to owe until you do your tax return. Now, again, it goes back to this whole agreement. You can't even file an extension. So if you have any of these agreements in place with the IRS, again, part of the agreement is that you're going to stay in compliance, and compliance means filing your tax return on time and paying your taxes on time. If you're a 1099 employee or you work for yourself, well, part of the agreement also means you got to pay quarterly taxes. So if I file my taxes and I find out that I owe $12,000 last year, part of the agreement means now every quarter I got to pay $3,000. And I got to pay it every quarter. If I don't pay it in the quarters and I'm going to wait till the end of the year, I violated the agreement, and I'm right back where I was. Remember, we had Tom Sedeka in the.
I was just about to say
that. So I always recommend people start a company and put yourself on payroll. Then you start paying taxes, and you hire a company like Precision Payroll, and they do your tax return. They do your taxes for you, and they pay the IRS the 941.
A lot of people don't want to pay that extra. I'm going to pay a third party and do it because you get into trouble and you get into this nightmare.
You actually save money because if you're an employee, you don't have to pay the self-employment tax, and you don't have to pay the penalties because you didn't pay on time. So in the end, it probably saves you money by putting yourself in business, and you don't have to worry about it. Also, if I'm trying to work out an agreement with the IRS and I put you and you start a company and you're getting on payroll now I can say to the IRS, because what do we have to talk about? Because cascading tax problem.
Yes.
Right. So I owe the IRS last year. I owe the IRS this year. I'm going to owe the IRS next year. So I got to show the IRS, how am I going to stop that? I'm going to stop this cascading tax problem. And one way to do that is to start a company and put yourself on payroll and pay your taxes with every check. So that way I'm never going to owe the IRS again. And that goes a long way. So we always talk about Tom Sedeka and Precision Payroll. And if you're having a question about that, call me and I'll talk to you.
312-664-6649.
So whether you're going to use Tom Sedeka or somebody else, or I don't really care about that. But we should talk about what kind of form that company is going to be. Are you going to start a corporation? Are you going to be an LLC? Are you going to do so? There's different ways to set up these companies depending on your own company and what's best for you. So that's what I recommend people do.
I also recommend, if that information that you just gave wasn't really clear, but it's piquing your interest, for all you listeners out there, give them a call. Visit, come right down to the office, talk to them, contact them, because this is big stuff. You don't want to get stuck in the middle of this nightmare, this rut. Who wants that? And the government doesn't care. The IRS doesn't care. They don't care about you.
That's true. And if it wasn't a nightmare, guess what? Nobody would hire me, because it becomes to be a nightmare, and that's when I got to get help. I got to get a lawyer.
I need help, and I need it now.
That's right.
And guess what? Open Tax Resolution is there for you. 312-664-6649, or visit ChicagoTaxTeam.com, where you can answer a lot of those questions that you have and then make the right decision. So, ladies and gentlemen, just don't let this problem unfold and be a bigger problem.
Fester.
So
Uncle
stay
Fester.
tuned. So stay tuned after the commercial break. More IRS Radio Hours coming at you here on AM 560. The Answer.